And just so everyone knows, the live indicates that we're connected to our streaming, but we're not live streaming yet. So feel free to connect with each other if you have questions.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to get my new light to work. GuruNischan, did you get my text?
I did. I sent you back, and absolutely, I'll lead. No problem.
Yeah, thank you. Good. We got about 5 minutes. I can only see GuruNischan. I can't see others yet. I saw Lisa. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
We'll be live in just a moment. So Heather?
Yep.
I just clicked on myself. I don't see myself. Do you know, can you tell me how I can see myself on the screen? I can only see GuruNischan.
It's because the screen is sharing. If you try to change your view to
I can remove the screen share and we can start as like gallery until you start speaking.
Right.
That would be excellent. Then everyone could see themselves and check their lights and all that fun stuff. Oh, yes. Okay.
There we go.
Good too. Okay.
That's much better.
That's what I said. I said, oh, okay, good. There I am.
Oh, connected. I see you all. Here we are, a virtual panel.
Yes. So Anila will not be joining us. GuruNischan is going to do the closing breath work.
Oh, okay.
And otherwise, it'll just go just like we said. We'll just start talking and we'll see where we end up at. I'm going to go to Muriel first because she's going to talk about One Breath Chicago a bit and what led her to wanting to provide this opportunity. And then after Muriel, I will probably go right to Lisa. I'll do a lead in, because I think based on, now this depends on what Muriel says, but I think based on what Muriel's experience, as I've heard it in the past, we might do that. But we'll see. We'll just play it by ear. We'll play it by ear. We might do none of the above. So.
All right. Are we ready to get started? I will set up the links here and give it a few seconds, and I'll send a chat once it's connected. All right.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to One Breath Chicago. This is our final of 5 live streamed panel events. Today's event is called Women Speak, Your Breath and Anger Management. We have a wonderful panel for you today. I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Cassandra Powell. I am the Executive Director of Light of Loving Kindness, which is one of the 2 organizations that is responsible for One Breath Chicago. So let me tell you a little bit about One Breath Chicago. As I mentioned, we are finishing up. This is our last panel. And then beginning tomorrow, February 1st at 3 p.m. and continuing all the way through the end of February, we are going to be sharing with you mindful breathing videos every day, 3 p.m. on our social media platforms. So these videos will be from different community members. You might see videos from some of the teams that are in our programs. They will be from facilitators and practitioners and business owners and just people across Chicagoland joining together, offering everyone, Chicagoans and our global community, the opportunity to come together and to breathe, to just take a moment, 3 o'clock, stop and breathe. So we hope you will join us when we move into that phase starting tomorrow. Now, a little bit about Light of Loving Kindness. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization located on the south side of Chicago. We provide access to hope, health, healing, and wholeness. How do we do this? We do it through holistic integrative solutions and mindfulness-based interventions. And you'll hear about some of those things on this discussion today. You know, not everything works for everyone. So there are different things that we can look at and choose from. And for One Breath Chicago, we're focusing on the breath. We provide services free of charge to communities that are underserved, underrepresented, to communities that have low incomes, and also to trauma affected communities. And as many of us know, living in the city of Chicago, trauma can hit any place at any time, it seems. In addition to that, we have the pandemic and politics, violence, so much is happening and has happened in the city of Chicago. So this is our call to action. This is our COVID response for us to get together 3 o'clock every day and breathe. We hope you will join us for that next week. And in addition, the last thing that I will say is if you can, please donate. You will find that we have donation links on our social media platforms. We have several programs. We have programs for teens. We have leadership programs. We have a self-love boot camp, a 12-week program for teens and children 9 to 12 and then 13 through 17. We have a multiplicity of things that we do, and we want to keep them free for community. So if you can, then please donate, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, let others know. All right, that's it for me. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our panel. So starting with Muriel Baptiste, who is the Executive Director of Utopia Connect Foundation. Muriel brings 18 years of dedicated work to communities across Chicago with a strong aptitude for building partnerships and leveraging resources. She is a great team player, and she is known for her leadership and coaching skills and for her project direction, design, and management. And you can read more about Muriel in her bio, which you can find on our social media platform as well. And next, moving to GuruNischan, whose pronouns are she and her. GuruNischan is sure to capture your breath and attention with over 20 years experience teaching and training on a global stage. She delivers science-backed strategies for rewiring the brain-body communication network and improving your everyday operating system. Next, we have Kimberly J. Davis. Kimberly is a spiritual teacher and activist, life coach, and energy healing practitioner. She is the founder and owner of Journey to Wellness Center, a holistic healing and wellness center located in the south suburbs of Chicago. Currently, Kimberly is pursuing a PhD in philosophy and religion with a concentration in women's spirituality at the California Institute of Integral Studies. And finally, we have Lisa D. Daniels, whose pronouns are she and her. Lisa is an advocate, leader, and speaker in the field of restorative justice. She helps individuals and families find healing in the aftermath of violence and crime. She is the founder of the Darren B. Easterling Center for Restorative Practices, lovingly known as the Center, a nonprofit organization that offers behavioral health and trauma recovery services to Chicago's most underserved communities. And you will hear more about Lisa and all of our panelists as we continue with our discussion today. So thank you everyone for joining us. Anila Dean was not able to join us today. So if you are looking for Anila, she wasn't able to join us, but we hope she'll be able to join us at a future panel. And let's start this panel with a question for Muriel. So Muriel is the executive director of Utopia Connect, which is our partner organization in One Breath Chicago. And you will see Muriel, I think Muriel is having some technical difficulties. So we're not going to go to Muriel first, but when Muriel makes it back, online, then we will go to Muriel. So, and that's quite all right. There is no problem at all. So let me begin this panel by saying, which Muriel might have said, but I'm going to say in her stead, our goal for One Breath Chicago is to provide access to holistic integrative solutions and mindfulness-based interventions. And we do this by providing opportunities for Chicagoans and our global community to learn, practice, and awaken to the power that is already within you, which is the power of your breath. So today you're going to hear people talk about the power of the breath, but you'll also hear them talk about other things that they do to help them through difficult situations in their lives. And Muriel is back with us now, so I am going to go to Muriel. And she should be on the screen in just a moment. So Muriel, I would love for you to start this panel off by discussing why, oh, Muriel's gone again. Okay, so we're gonna go to Lisa. Here we go. So Lisa, here's our opening question for you. Very often humans find it hard to identify and experience their emotions. And it seems like sometimes our very emotions might even be the death of us. They feel that strongly in our person and all around us. So I would like to start this panel off with you. Can you share your story with us and talk about how you've learned, what you're still learning, and what you'd like to share with us today about grief, anger, the breath, and anything you'd like to share?
Thank you, Muriel. I'm sorry. Thank you, Cassandra. Hey, Muriel. It's good to see you back again. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is a wonderful opportunity. My story, this phase of my story began in 2012. The segment of my story, I like to call it that way, the segment of my story that brought me to this journey, this part of the journey that brought me to be present in this space, began in July of 2012 when my youngest son, who was 25 at the time, was murdered in a robbery disguised as a drug deal. And it was an incident that he actually orchestrated and was a willing participant. I had never experienced the loss of a loved one. So it took me by surprise, but it also took me on a journey that, as strange as this may sound, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I understand that there are lots of things that are not orchestrated by a higher power, but I also am clear that none of the things that we experience are wasted by that higher power. He doesn't waste anything. And it was my goal from the very beginning to, one, be whole as a result of that experience, to stay whole, and then to utilize that experience and my personal development through that experience to share with others the capacity to be whole and remain whole in similar spaces. We, meaning the city of Chicago, has been the epicenter of violent crime for a very, very long time now. And it didn't take long for me to realize that the group of women who have lost a loved one, particularly women of color, who have lost a loved one or been impacted by the loss of a loved one as a result of gun violence or incarceration, was a very, very large group. And actually, it actually could be considered its own demographic at this point. But what I also came to understand very, very quickly was that not everyone that I had encountered seemed to have the desire or the capacity to allow themselves to heal from their experience. And it was my choice from the very beginning. And not only was it my choice to heal personally, but it was my choice to position others to have a similar experience. And that was just what I began to do. And it started with the choice to forgive. It started with the choice to forgive at the very beginning. I remember writing a Facebook post once the young man that had been accused of my son's murder and charged with his murder. And he had a $3 million bond. And I remember writing a Facebook post and asking all of my friends and family that had been reaching out to me and offering support and prayers and loving kindness, that I remember asking if you guys would, or if they would now begin to direct that those well wishes to the mother of the young man who had been arrested for murdering my son. I saw that I was going to be okay, but I also saw that we had both experienced the loss, and that although it may look a little different on the surface, the gravity of the experience had to be very, very similar. It had to be very, very similar. And I wanted people that loved me to love her. And I wanted her to know that her son's life was just as valuable as my son's life. And therein was the beginning, I think, of my journey. I wasn't aware, that wasn't a time where I was aware of the power of the breath. But what I knew for sure was that if I just kept going on days when I didn't want to go, that I would end up somewhere. But I had to keep moving, which meant I had to keep breathing in order to get wherever I was going to go, wherever I was going to land, that was going to enable me to share this experience with other women like myself, and root for their rise as others had rooted for mine. If I was going to show, provide a tangible example of what forgiveness looks like, what healing looks like, what loving looks like, then I had to move. I couldn't wallow in my pain. I could not succumb to my grief. I had to keep moving. And all of that meant that I had to breathe. 2016, 4 years later, I was given an opportunity to sit in a courtroom and give a victim impact statement for the man, on behalf of my son, to the man and the family and the family of the young man who had been convicted of murdering my son. And in that, I used it as an opportunity to, again, be that tangible example of what forgiveness looks like, what unconditional love looks like, what healing looks like, what breathing looks like. And I asked in that letter, in that statement, for the judge to show leniency on behalf of the young man. I needed to use that opportunity not to speak about my pain because I could manage that. Not to speak about the life of my son because he had an organization that bared his name. So he didn't need to be spoken on behalf of that day. But the young man that did not have a voice and sat in that room at that table, shackled at his hands and his feet, and his family sat and watched, and none of them had a voice that day. So I chose to use my voice and my breath to speak on his behalf, to say what I would have wanted someone to say on behalf of my own son. Because had that gone the other way, that day, that incident been any different, and my son may have fired first, he would have been looking at a lot more time than this young man was looking at. So I wanted to use my voice on behalf of someone else. And I did. And I asked the judge to show leniency on his behalf, and he did. And the original agreement was that he would receive, he took a plea, I'm sorry, the plea agreement was for him to agree to second-degree murder and 15 years. And the judge saw fit to reduce that sentence by 50%. And include the 4 years time served that he had already served in county lockup awaiting trial. So he had 3.5 years remaining, and he actually finished it. I'm going to conclude he has some good time credit. So he's supposed to be released in November of 2019, and he was actually released March of 2019. So 6 months earlier, I believe, than he was actually scheduled to be released. And I breathe for him, hoping and trusting and believing that he will do well with the chance that he's been given. And I find no room I never did find any room to be angry. I could think of a whole lot of other stuff I could be mad about. I get mad when people are driving and texting in front of me. I get mad about that. But I couldn't be mad about the man that murdered my son, that met my son on that day because of lifestyle choices that they both made. I just chose to offer healing. The center was opened to offer healing for my son and for his children, to redefine the legacy and rewrite the narrative for his life and their lives. And lo and behold, because I chose not to be angry, because I chose to get up and breathe every day, the opportunity to also rewrite the narrative for that young man was available to me as well. So that's
And
my story.
possibly available to him as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that. You said to breathe for him. I love that concept of when a person can't breathe for themselves, to breathe for them and offer that to them, even if we're not in the same space with them. It was beautiful. Thank you. Is there anyone else on the panel who has experienced the grief and anger at the loss of a loved one? And can we talk a little bit about suppressed anger? Maybe what happens when we don't allow that anger to come out of us? Anyone want to take that one?
I'll speak on the suppressed anger, not necessarily on the loss of a loved one. So thank you, Lisa, for giving us a touch into you there in the loss of your son and the transmutation of that as well. My name is GuruNischan, and I was raised in a high controlled group or high controlled religious group, and unaware, I morphed and kind of left that lifestyle at around 15, thinking kind of I had this, I pulled the good from it and shed the part I didn't want and kind of led my life, and just had no idea the extent of the emotional repression that had really been trained in my unconscious operating system. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I even became aware that if I drank too much wine, for instance, I could get really emotional, or it could turn from sadness into anger, or I noticed in certain situations feeling very locked up. And it wasn't until almost my 40s, I hit 40 and realizing, wow, I can't even feel what I'm feeling. And that brought up grief in and of itself, because I realized I've been living in this body for this many years and I don't know how to know what I'm feeling. If I'm asked what I need or I want, sometimes that would actually bring me to a heightened state of vigilance. And I didn't know that this was historically based in environmental or historical trauma from my upbringing, because I thought my life was pretty good. You know, I didn't have any like specific memories of bad things. It was just kind of an environment that overall had a lot of hypocrisy and indoctrination and things that we were told to do one way, and what was happening in the environment, a lot of infidelity and things that were going incongruent of what we were told. So I got to a point where I didn't even know what anger felt like in my body. The way that my body held anger was acid reflux, indigestion. I would repress things that I want to say for so long, not even knowing I would repress it, and then it would uncontrollably come out in a way that wasn't representative of the situation at hand, for instance. So I started noticing, whoa, I'm like this balloon that's getting bigger and bigger, and not realizing that I've never learned something called emotional regulation, or that it was safe to feel my feelings. And when I started having awareness of that, that was about maybe 6-7 years ago. And I got really sad. Like, I was really grieving the fact that I felt like I had lived most of my life not even knowing that there was a whole world inside me that I didn't even know how to touch or feel or address. And what made it extra sad is I grew up in a yoga spiritual community where mindfulness and breath were used more as bypassing tools rather than actually connecting tools. And so here, my nervous system, the way that I'm holding repressed emotions, was actually telling me the opposite. Like, I was safer in inconsistent, unregulated environments because I had gotten so used to growing up with inconsistent unexpression. And so I didn't even know where to begin. And that brought up a lot of sadness, because, you know, when you live your whole life thinking you know yourself, and then you realize I don't know anything. And so, you know, that was really scary. And then I had to go in a different direction, like specifically the yoga type of practices I learned. I had to stop doing them in order to notice what I could feel. So in an environment outside of my own, sometimes what we're always taught, like what we grow up in our family doing, or what we're taught in our religion, what's the right way or the wrong way. For me, the way that I broke out of that is I started doing the opposite of what I had been taught I should do when I'm feeling an uncomfortable emotion. I would be like, hey, what do I think I have to do? It's like, okay, not say anything, whatever the thing I would tell myself, be quiet, just appease what other people need in the room. And then I would drop into my body a little bit and say, well, what would be the opposite of that? And then I would practice doing something that was really uncomfortable, but feeling into the feeling that was coming up. And I would also start to notice, like, where in my body I felt tightness or inflammation, and put attention on that part of my body, as noticing, like, I don't know what the emotion that is yet, but I know my body is responding in some sort of way. Oh, look at my shoulders are a little tight. Oh, I'm feeling tightness in my belly. And so I would just start focusing on, like, connecting to my body, and even asking, like, what are you feeling? And I have to say, for the first couple of years of asking that, no answer came, but it was just the fact that I kind of started to notice that my body was reacting, or indigestion would come after something specific. And I would start tracking what am I feeling, to where is it in my body, and not necessarily getting hung up on what's the emotion that's coming up, but really giving more space to feel. And what I did notice in this healing process too, is it started as grief of, like, oh my gosh, poor me. I've had a lot of feelings I've repressed my whole life, and that alone could get me lost and sunk into depression. But instead of staying there, I just kind of held myself there and said, I know there's a lot of other feelings that I haven't had permission to feel most of my life. I want to make my body a safe place to feel whatever I'm feeling. And so I just started cultivating safety inside by talking to myself, kind of affirming to myself that whatever I'm feeling, it's okay to feel, softening my body when I noticed it was getting tight, different things. And again, I had to do the opposite. So as much as I love teaching breath, and breath is now something that I can practice without it bringing me into a trauma state, because I come from a yoga breath environment, we got trained to use breath and yoga posture as a way to not feel our emotions. And that's quite a psychological body twist that I had to really unwind in myself to feel safe in my body again.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Cassandra.
I'm sorry, go on.
Yes, if I can add to that, Cassandra, knowledge is power, and it is an understanding of why it is important to manage emotions is critical to our overall health. There's evidence from the Mayo Clinic that suggests that anger and hostility is linked with heart disease, high blood pressure, peptic ulcers, and stroke. And when we consider our overall quality of health, it is not something to take lightly. We generally respond to these feelings of anger the way we were taught to handle them from either our parents or even culturally, like you just mentioned, or through our religious beliefs. But those may hinder us from truly expressing how we feel and may require us to relearn healthy responses, especially to our anger, when we realize how it is tied to our health. On the spectrum of anger and anger management ranging from suppression to explosive behaviors, we're going to have to want to find ways to balance our the way we express our anger in healthier ways. And even seeking professional help sometimes is even required. I would highly recommend re-examining what you were taught and challenge it with new behaviors that support health.
And Muriel, let's stick with you for a moment because I was coming to you anyway. So let's just stay right there with you for a moment. Yes, and I was just going to comment and say thank you to GuruNischan because she brought in the element of the mind-body emotion connection. And that's exactly what you brought in too, the inflammation. Why do I have inflammation here? Why is there a pain here? Why am I sick to my stomach every day? Why is this? Why is that? So all of these things are connected, which is what you are bringing together. So thank you so much. And Muriel, I introduced you. You had a glowing introduction. So everyone is waiting to hear from you about what led you to feeling like there was a need to catch your breath and One Breath Chicago.
Thank you, Cassandra. And I completely missed the glowing, raving reviews. But like Cassandra said, I'm Muriel Baptiste, and I'll tell you this. In March, I found myself, like many of you, suddenly balancing a lot from home. Even being at home started to feel a little claustrophobic. There was homeschooling happening. I was working 2 jobs. I was caring for my elderly mother, and I was pursuing a master's program. It was beginning to take a really big mental toll for me, needing to meet numerous deliverables while arm wrestling for Zoom space to make it all happen. Coincidentally, one of the first courses that I was enrolled in was a mindfulness class. And it turned out to be exactly what I needed, even if I didn't know that I needed it at the time. I didn't recognize that. I was introduced to the benefits of the breath during this class. And I started wondering, why doesn't everyone know about the breath? How come they don't know about this great resource that helps us to self-regulate and recalibrate our bodies and our mind? And why was I just learning about this? So fast forward, this is how this project, One Breath Chicago, was born. Our intent is to teach us all that we have a free tool, a resource that we can use at any time that helps us to manage and navigate anger, stress, anxiety, depression, and any other emotions such as sadness and fear, which are common during this time. To execute this project, I actually teamed up with Cassandra and her team, the Light of Loving Kindness team. And they've been so instrumental in putting these workshop sessions together. And I'm happy to have heard some feedback from people I've spoken to, how supportive that this wellness journey has been for them, just joining us every week. So Thank you so much for that. Through this experience of finding a way to manage my anxiety and stress, I cannot emphasize enough how the benefits of the breath are endless. And it extends beyond ourselves, actually. It raises our awareness of ourselves, and it equips us with the compassion to care for ourselves as well as others. So the power of the breath, it takes healing beyond ourselves and extends it to our family, our friends, our colleagues, and it has the potential to heal our entire community. It truly begins with us, gaining an individual awareness of where we are, who we are, and how we need to shift. I needed to shift. And I'm very happy that I found the breath that allowed me to be able to make that shift, just to be aware that something wasn't right. Though my friends call me Superwoman, I learned that I'm human. I'm human, and there are only 24 hours in a day, and I need to rest and focus on self-care, because without it, we can't deliver on caring for anyone else. At the Utopia Connect Foundation, we care about women and their wellness, and women are carrying a lot of the weight during this pandemic. Women of color are experiencing it in twice as much. So thanks, Cassandra, to you and your team, and for the work that you've done to move this project along. I really appreciate you and what you bring to this project. And I'm happy that we're able to speak to women today and infuse the breath into all that we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I always have to wait a little bit there just in case somebody else wants to jump in. Don't let me do all the talking, everybody. So, and thank you. The breath is powerful. And I love that you said it can heal communities. And what I wrote in my notes were, women are powerful. Women are powerful. And if each one of us was to take this breath and taught it to someone else, our families or a parent or a child, or something that works for us, something that we have with us all the time, it could really make a difference for us here in Chicago, starting with our children at 2 or 3 years old. They may not be too young to learn the breath. So you got to
I want to
unmute
just
yourself,
jump in. I wanted to jump in on that,
Okay.
on the breath real quick, in that the thing about breathing is we don't have to breathe, or we don't have to pay attention to it, and we'll still stay alive. And just like our heart works without having to pay attention. But the science is showing that when we actually put attention on our breath, just the attention, not even the technique, it moves us from our trauma animal brain immediately into the higher part of the brain that allows for empathy and reflection. So just awareness of breath, as we start to put our attention, even kind of telling ourselves throughout the day, wow, there's my breath. Noticing my breath, the sound of my breath. Oh, where's my breath right now? Even that changes the brain from our trauma animal brain right to a higher functioning. And it gives us the ability to interact in a high stress environment where we're multitasking. And that's not even technique, right? And I just want to say amazing, amazing. So yes, our children need to learn it. We need to learn, every part of us, like sharing it through that. It's like each one teach one, because it is a free tool. And it's, to me, I put it back into minimum wage. We can do minimum wage breathing, or we can start to do conscious breathing where we're thriving. Our breath starts to work for us versus we have to work for it, you know?
I like that. Minimum wage breathing versus thriving. What'd you say, Lisa?
I said, I love it. I love that. I'm off that minimum wage breathing. I love it.
No, right?
And
I love it.
Yeah.
I just, oh, go ahead, Kimberly.
No,
go ahead,
ahead.
because you haven't.
No.
I just wanted to jump in there real quick behind GuruNischan. I've over the past few years, I've learned to implement the breath in two very, very valuable spaces. One is with my grandchildren, particularly the youngest, who is 6. And just in very, very simple moments, if she's upset, if she's crying and she's talking fast, stop. Jayla, breathe. And and she understands it, and it's immediate, and it brings forth an immediate calming. And my hope is that as she, begins to mature, to grow and to mature, that she'll understand how to implement that practice for herself. And the second space that I love being able to use it is in the prison system. I work for the parole board, and when I'm doing hearings with guys who have violated their parole, and they come and they sit down in front of me, they are nervous, they are scared out of their pants, because they understand, well, they see me as a perceived power over them, I'll say it that way, and somewhat being able to kind of hold their fate in my hands, which I don't think is true at all. But what I've been able to do, even in that space, I got a grown man sitting across from me who has, done all kinds of things in his life and had all kinds of experiences. And when the conversation might get heated, instead of tone policing, I just simply ask him to breathe. Just take a minute, because I understand. I understand, and I choose compassion over anger. I choose compassion over righteousness, and I get to just give him an opportunity to breathe his way through his experience, and understand that that's a tool that he has, that is accessible to him all the time.
Yeah. And so I kind of just want to incorporate and piggyback off of what everyone said, because it's some very key themes that is coming out, and that is consciousness, being very, very conscious of our breathing, because it is automatic. That is something that we take for granted. And I agree wholeheartedly. It is a tool, but as well as it is a tool for us to connect to feeling, and it is a tool for us to be able to ground, to get into the body, because if we can't get into the body and we don't feel what's going on, then we can't release it. And so anger is a very powerful emotion, but it is also a gift, and so it challenges us to feel, and it only becomes imbalanced, or what we say bad, when we don't feel it enough to release it, when we don't, embody it enough to release it and to let it go. When we hold on to it, when we want to, make someone else angry because we're angry, when we want to lash out, so we don't have the tools to be able to feel it, understand what the wisdom is in that moment, what is it that is teaching us, and then be able to let it go. And the breath is that tool that allows us to center and to be able to ground in, what am I feeling? Because a lot of times when we're angry, we it's that fight, flight sensation. Yeah. And we just go off the handle, versus grounding into it and saying, how is this making me feel? My heart is racing, my stomach is hurting, I don't like how I feel, and so how, now that I'm acknowledging that I'm feeling some imbalance, there's some disconnection, some things that are going on in my body, how do I re-engage? Because I get to choose. And a lot of the ladies have said this as well. It is a conscious choice. So I get to choose how I engage with this emotion, with this feeling. I get to choose. And the breath allows you to ground and to be very aware and very conscious. And so in those moments, just closing our eyes, and as you all have said, just breathing, breathing, getting back into the body, settling the body. So the breath gives us the ability to settle the body. And then we can make a choice about how to move and what to do kind of with that anger. And so I think that is the power. I think that is one of the major powers of the breath, is in its ability to ground us into the body versus having us avoid and react.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's such a great point in the grounding and also feeling the feeling in order to heal it. One of the things in my experience of letting that feeling up is it brought me an immediate sense of non-safety. And that's what brought me back into like, what was I trained to think or feel about whether it's safe to feel this? And that historical trace back, one of the things that's so important that we're remembering is that the nervous system holds memory or code, even if it's not our own unique memory. It could be historical lineage memory or ancestral trauma that we're holding. It could be memories that we're not even conscious of that happened to us when we're quite young. And those trauma memories are stuck in our body. So an incident can happen where we feel a lot of anger or feel a certain way, and it's actually triggering the unprocessed trauma we're holding, and it's this new experience. And so getting into permission of feeling and saying, wow, this emotion, whatever it is, even though I was taught it's not safe and I'm in an immediate trauma reaction, I can actually learn to unwind that and reconnect breath and connecting my mind body and noticing what's happening in my body and realizing I can settle my system and realize, how old is this? That's one of the questions I like to ask. Whose is this really? And it's some of the questions that I won't quote, try to find an answer to, but more it becomes like my meditation with my breath, where I'm kind of marinating myself in an awareness that this is bigger than me. I'm holding ancestral trauma. I'm holding historical lineage-based trauma, environmental stuff that happened to and around me, not necessarily just to me. And this is really relevant for when we grow up in very violent situations. The violence doesn't have to occur to us. It just has to be around us for our system to absorb that as a trauma memory and to learn it's not safe to express. It could be as simple as expressing our needs young, and our mom got angry at us because she had a hard day. And then we registered, oh, that's not safe. I'm going to be nice all the time when somebody talks to me. And that's a very childlike approach to safety, but it's how we work. And so when we start to work with the nervous system, we realize, wow, this is very animal brain basics, and learning to settle our body is about creating a relationship with our nervous system and learning what happens to our body under different areas of stress, what happens under grief, what happens under anger, what happens in an environment where somebody else is angry versus we're angry, and our body reacts and responds just like an animal does. And studies are showing we're very animal-like. Even though we're human with higher functioning brains, we're very animal instinct, and starting to be in permission with what's happening in our bodies, not just saying, oh, I learned that's not a good emotion, I can't feel that, and then we stuff it back away because we're taught we should take a higher ground per se. Getting back in the body is saying, okay, I'm an animal, I'm having an animal instinct. Oh, what can I feel with this? And I find sounding is another good one. Sometimes specifically with anger, because I grew up in an environment where anger wasn't safe to express and no adults around express. So as kids, we kind of absorbed all of the adults that weren't feeling their emotions too. I learned this process of like sounding out, kind of like getting guttural and grunty, like, and like bringing the sound down into my hips and in my pelvis, and like stomping, kind of like, indigenous people around the world have always embodied energy, even if it was anger or grief. It was like moving the energy through the body and doing those sound things, whether it was through sound or movement or a combination of both.
That's
And
beautiful.
all of that gets
Oh
us
yeah,
back.
wait, let me ask for a definition first, everyone, because we keep talking about grounding into the body. But remember, a lot of people on this call might not understand, what does that mean to ground into the body? And also addressing those who either can't feel their emotions, so they don't know what that is. How do they get to that point? Or women who are just angry, that they feel like, I don't know what's wrong, I'm just upset, I'm angry. Can we talk about those two? But first, what does it mean to ground into the body?
So what it means to ground into the body is to feel. We have for so long been taught that you suppress, you keep going, you survive, you suppress, you keep going, you survive. And then the minute that you feel and react, there's somebody there telling you to calm down, or you shouldn't react, or you shouldn't, or the angry, especially for Black women, the angry Black woman, you're emotional, you're this. And so we're taught that emotion, anger, tears, we're taught anything that has anything to do with a display of emotion is, we should avoid it at all costs. And so when I say grounding into the body, it's really getting intimate with however you feel, without fear, without judgment, just being present with that. That's like the first step, because you're right. So many people have completely shut down. They have been taught that feeling is unsafe. They have been taught that, feeling requires too much attention, it's going to stop me and I got to keep going. I got kids to take care of. I got to go to work. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have space. And so we begin to shut down. And trauma does that to us. Grief does that to us. It shuts us down. And so when I say ground, I mean really getting back into the body and allowing yourself. Breath is the most powerful key or powerful thing that you can do, because once you breathe, just taking a deep breath drops you down into the body. Now, whether or not we want to feel what's going on in there, or we make the choice to continue to avoid, that's one thing. But really being able to feel, going out in nature, like that's my biggest thing that drops me out of thoughts and into my body, grounding into my body, connecting me into my body, is going out into nature. Nature automatically, you go outside, you take some fresh air, you become very present. So grounding is presence, being very present to how you feel, what you're experiencing, being in the moment, getting out of the head space. And so going outside, communing with nature, feeling the wind, feeling the coldness, feeling the sun, all of those things, any and everything that gets you back into your body can be a tool or a method for grounding.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you, GuruNischan, as well, for bringing in the indigenous aspects and adding the sound and adding nature. Like we said when we started, not everything works for everyone. I know some people, you say go in nature, they're like, nature, but yeah, for many of us, that is a place where we come alive again, or dancing or stomping. I will say that I was a person who did not really begin to feel my emotions until I was almost 50 years old, because I did not feel that it was safe to do so. So I wanted us to answer that question for those of us who simply stay busy, work 2.5, 3 jobs, take care of the kids, go to church, go to school, do what you're going to do all of these multiplicity of things. And I can say, well, yeah, I've done this and this and this, but I didn't understand the need for self-care. And so, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And now we're actually moving to the end, believe it or not. I cannot believe it. That was so fast, so fast. So for the entire group, I'm going to give everyone 3 minutes or less, and please share a takeaway with our audience. Anything that you would like to share with them. You can share a specific breath that you like, or you can share another tool that you may have that you like, or something else that you want to expound upon that we've already talked about. So I am going to go in the order that I see you on my screen. So I'm going to start with GuruNischan.
Well, I want to begin with saying that I know what it's like to feel emotional repression and not know that their emotions needed to be felt. Like I was successful, driven, goal-oriented. I definitely carried more weight. These are things that I know were protective mechanisms that were helping me to not feel what was beneath the layers of me. And I know that's a unique thing for every person, but for me, it was busyness. It was also being an overachiever. And so one of the ways that I could avoid not feeling what was wanting my attention is I could stay busy and I have the next goal and be really driven towards, you know, the next adventure, so to speak. And so when I actually took a pause and started noticing, I knew my work was to start putting my attention inward. And it was a long journey. I would say it was at least 4 to 5 years where I could say I was really starting to feel like, oh, I can feel myself. Obviously, a lot more layers to go. It was another 3 to 4 years to where I felt like, okay, I'm in my body. Oh my gosh, I'm transforming. So it's my takeaway is give yourself time. You know, if you go in and say, what am I feeling? And you get ice, I'm with you. Like love on that ice, like seduce the ice, love on that place of whatever your body is offering you exactly the way it is, because that nothing changes when we berate it. It only changes when we put our attention on it with loving kindness. So a simple technique that I've learned that brings us right out of our kind of trauma brain into a higher relationship, or a kind of maybe a deeper relationship, is something where we start to just notice. So if I'm noticing with myself or regulating myself, I would just start sitting here and I would say out loud, I notice the feeling of the sweater of my against my skin. I notice my hair touching my cheeks. I notice the small of my back against the chair. I notice tension in my right neck. I notice a little swirling in my belly. I notice my feet on the floor. I notice the pant legs against my pants. I notice a little itch on my leg. So you would just go through this with yourself and take more time, like give yourself 2 to 3 minutes and just start noticing. It might not be deep. It just might be, I notice my shoulders hurt. I notice my belly hurts. I know, but what this is it's profound attention, and that attention is on you. And that is doing more in your nervous system and in your brain than you could even imagine. The science is off the charts when it comes to self-regulation and this idea of grounding. It's really idea of coming back home when we're taught that achievement is out there. So when we start to come back home to the one thing we always have, and when we don't have the breath anymore, we're dead. So if you start putting attention on what's happening here in this home, everything externally can start to transform, because we're putting our loving attention, which is the best gift that any of us can ever give anyone.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, GuruNischan. And now I'll go to Kim.
I'll be brief. I say this a lot. I say this a lot to my clients, but you can't heal what you don't feel. And so feeling is so very critical, but you have to consciously give yourself permission to feel, give yourself permission to go there, and really trust what you come back with. Trust your body, trust the wisdom. There's so much wisdom that is within our bodies and we've externalized it. You know, we trust our parents, we trust what the doctors tell us, we trust what society tell us, we trust what politicians, you know, all of our trust, all of our wisdom becomes external, and we don't trust and really feel the wisdom and the truth of our bodies. And so it's time for us to ground and to give ourselves permission to get back into our own bodies, to develop a relationship with our bodies. And it takes time, and it takes compassion, and it takes intention, and it takes choosing, and it takes giving yourself permission to go there. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lisa. And Muriel.
Yes, for me, it's expression, and we've used the term a few times here today, but expression is so important. And I think that is why spoken word is so important and why Amanda Gorman, everybody knows her name today. And she's made it resoundingly clear in America that speaking up matters, our voice matters. But there's a way to express displeasure in a respectful manner and not allow it to fester, leading to, something bigger. Nipping our problems in the bud is a huge step to curbing a bigger problem. And one of the things that I recall, and I think is Maya Angelou, who says that we teach people how to treat us. And for me, that is just so profound when I heard it. And it's so true. And it's one thing that I want every woman to take away. Sometimes it's hard to break through the noise in the crowd, but a woman finding her voice is the biggest empowerment she can bring to her own life. So to women, I entreat you to practice breathing, but also I highly encourage you to slowly begin to insert your voice into your own outcomes, because you can become your best self-advocate. And I would also say, if we can begin to learn new ways to let go of resentment, which feeds anger and fear, we can begin to find a path forward. And for as it's a journey, and addressing those problems allows ourselves to
All right, I think we've lost Muriel again, but thank you so
impart.
much, Muriel. I think you're there, but we can't hear you. So thank you so much. And let's go to Lisa now. Lisa, is there anything you want to share?
I think I'm going to be brief as well, because I think that the other ladies on the panel have spoken so well and given our those who are listening or watching such poured out from such a wealth of wisdom. I took notes. I just want you guys to know that. But what I thought about when Kimberly said nothing changes when we berate it, I thought about myself, and I thought about my own personal experiences, and I also thought about relationships with others, and how it is imperative that we find a balance between anger and compassion, allowing ourselves to experience whatever the anger is as it relates to the particular situation, and then moving beyond it. And then living in that space of compassion. And that works for others that we are in relationship with. But when it works for you, that is when it is so very, very powerful. And I've been managing myself through a situation with a loved one in my family. And I find myself angry with her as it relates to how her life choices are affecting me. I found myself angry with my son after he died for how his life choices affected me. And his children and their mother. And we are still living with the effects of that today. And so I choose not to dismiss my anger, but I'm learning daily how to manage it for me, and how to manage it for them being my grandchildren and their mother, and to live in the space that space between anger and compassion. And once I allow myself to release the anger, to feel the anger, acknowledge the anger, feel the anger, and then release the anger, then is where I can sit with her and I can speak to her and I can say to her that you deserve so much more, and you can do so much more, and you can be so much more. Because berating her, you need to do this, you need to do that, you better do this, you better do that, changes absolutely nothing. It changes absolutely nothing. And because if it worked, we would have only had to have that conversation once. If punitive behavior worked, you'd got it right after that first one. There would be no recidivism rate. The only people that are incarcerated would be the people that were there for the first offense. If being punitive and being berating worked. So we must take away from this conversation the benefit of, again, acknowledging the anger, feeling the anger, and then moving beyond the anger. And then when all that's said and done, find compassion, live in that space, living it for you and living it for those that we interact with, because nothing changes when it's berated. I will take that with me. I will take that with me forever. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. And for me, before we go to GuruNischan, who is going to lead us in a breathwork practice here, just for you, so stay tuned. I think if I would add maybe just a little bit to the conversation, I would say that we have to be able to get in touch with our uncomfortable feelings. And we don't like to feel uncomfortable. And very often we bypass uncomfortable feelings, we bypass fear, we bypass a lot of feelings before getting to anger. And if we can allow ourselves, I remember GuruNischan said, just when you are feeling the different things in your body, maybe all you're going to feel is, oh, my stomach hurts. Maybe that's what you're feeling right now. But whatever that is, allow yourself to feel the uncomfortable feelings. And that is a good prevention for not stuffing. And the other thing that I would say is self-care. Self-care has to be at the top of our list. And very often for women, it is not expected for us to utilize self-care. We are taught to care for everyone around us before caring for ourselves. And that needs to stop as well. We need to be able to see ourselves for who we are and to offer this care to ourselves. And for myself, some days I am extremely happy. That's most days. Some days I'm sad. And I know what that feeling is. I know what it feels like. Some days I can't identify the feeling. I just know that there's a feeling there. But I tap into that feeling. And then I sit down and I breathe. And it has helped me tremendously. And I hope that this information from the panel has helped you as well. And now, without further ado, let's go to GuruNischan.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. So I'm a breath trainer and sensory system teacher. And what that means is I basically teach how to awaken the sensory body, the parts of ourselves that are sensation. And sensation can be high sensation that are very good things and exciting, wonderful things happen to us. And sensation can also be very, quote, bad things when terrible things happen that bring us down into the pits of our own despair. And so learning to feel and hold more sensation is a part of being in a human body. So this practice is really about supporting you to learn to have more sensation and notice those sensations without judging it. Okay. And I'm giving that as a preface because the practice I'm going to teach you while we do the practice, which will be about 5 minutes or so, we're just kind of building up and doing the practice. But it's the pause when we're done that I really want you to put your attention on. Okay. I want you to do the best you can to stay with the breath while we're going through the practice together. But when we pause, just enjoy that you put in the work and feel what you feel and what you notice by being as still as you possibly can when we're done. Okay. Kind of like letting the waterfall of it just wash you. Okay. So first, I just want you to make sure you're comfortable in your chair, but not slouching. So your feet should be flat on the floor if you can. If you're in a chair, if you're sitting on the floor, that's fine too. Just adjust the fleshy part of your bum out from underneath you so you can feel the bones of your butt. If you're on a chair, again, lifting up the heart by imagining a string at your heart, kind of lifting you up out of your chair. So you're getting a little lighter at your seat, but roll the shoulders back. And because we're a technology society, we tend to kind of keep our head out. I want you to try to pull that chin in, okay? I want you to become aware of your spine. And your spine, just kind of imagine it at the base of your tushy, all the way up to the top of your head. And pulling the chin in allows the bottleneck of the body. Oftentimes, this is where the emotions will get stuck, as we heard Muriel talk about the importance of expression through the throat. So pulling that chin in will help to increase the energy to move through the neck. So just notice where your breath is. Don't try to do anything to it. Just see if you notice your breath going in and out. And if you can, I want you to put your awareness to breathing in and out through your nostrils. So sometimes we're used to breathing through the mouth, but see if you can close the lips and just start breathing in and out through the nose. And as you inhale, expanding the belly like a big balloon. And as you exhale, deflating the belly, but lengthening the spine. So see if you can get a little bit taller. And the bottom half of you is rooting down into the earth, and the top half of you is stretching upward. So with every inhale, your belly is expanding like a balloon. And with each exhale, feel yourself growing a little taller, rooting down through the bottom half of your body and stretching up through the top half of your body. See if you can notice your feet on the floor, your bum in the seat. And this spinal column is the superhighway of communication between all messages from your brain to your body. So just keep awareness of your spine. Notice if it's leaning to the left or to the right, if you're leaning a little forward or a little back, but don't change it, just notice it, because that's your superhighway. And sometimes our superhighways are built differently. Now take a deep breath through the nose. And staying in your posture, exhaling through the nose, allowing the eyes to open so you can see me. This breath that we're going to do is called a segmented breath, which means we're going to break the breath up in 4 parts. The lips are going to be tight. So this breath we're doing in and out through the mouth, but it's going to be tight like this. Okay. And we're going to inhale the breath in 4 parts. And then exhale the breath through the rounded lips. Okay, again, inhale in 4 parts. And exhale in 4 parts. Okay, before we continue, 2 things. The tightness of your lips is really important. The lips actually have nerve endings on it, and the lips and the tongue relate to a very primal nerve that deals with a lot of trauma. It's called the vagal nerve, and it goes down the front half of our body through the digestive system and through the pelvis. So just by tightening the lips, we're affecting that nerve, which holds a lot of emotional memory. So really emphasize trying to tighten the lips. And the other thing is when you exhale the breath out, I want you to shoot the breath out like a cannon. And you have to use your belly button to do that. So see if you can put your hand on your belly and push the breath out through the mouth and use the belly to kind of shoot the breath out. Okay, so we're going to do that in 4 parts in and 4 parts out. Remember, this breath is meant to make you feel a little uncomfortable. So as we do it, notice sensations in your body, just stay with it, bring yourself to a heightened level of noticing. And then when we pause is where the magic is, really where the body begins to regulate itself. Okay, you ready? Okay, so tighten the lips. Again, we're inhaling in 4 parts and then shooting, emphasizing the breath out in 4 parts. Let's begin. Exhale. Good. Continue. Inhale. And shoot the breath out through the mouth using the belly button. Continue at your pace. Exhaling in 4 parts. If you're comfortable, you can allow your eyes to close and put your attention inward. If that doesn't feel safe for you, you can just gaze at one spot on the floor in front of you. Again, you're inhaling in 4 parts and exhaling in 4 parts, using the belly button to shoot the breath out. Anger as an emotion likes to hide itself in the belly. It also likes to hide in the liver and affect the liver and the digestive system a lot. So when we're engaging the belly button, this is the umbilicus, the cord that we breathed in before we came into this body. So use this part of your body intentionally. Using the belly button supports the movement of stored anger in the belly. This is an excellent breath for overwhelming feelings and to reduce stress in high chaotic environments. You're doing great. We're almost there. So stay with the uncomfortable sensations, inhaling in 4 parts, exhaling in 4 parts. Stay with the breath. When you're new to breathing, doing a segmented breath is sometimes helpful so that you don't get distracted and wandering everywhere. Helps you focus on something. Beautiful. Do one more round. Beautiful. Now inhale through the nose. Inhale a little bit more. Inhale a little bit more. Bring the lungs to full capacity. Hold the breath. Relax the shoulders down. Press the tongue to the roof of your mouth. Root the seat down. Feel the feet on the ground. Slowly exhale through the nose. Be as still as you possibly can. Breathe in and out through your nostrils freely. The deeper and more conscious you breathe, the more your body will adjust itself. Feel and notice the sensations that your body is offering. Don't get lost in the stories. Just notice the subtle sensations. Notice your breath breathing you. Allow your body to settle in the ways that it chooses. Beautiful. If you want to take a deep breath through the nose. And exhale. Cassandra, if you'd like to take it from here.
Thank you so much, GuruNischan. I feel very zen, so thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone who joined us today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for practicing with us. I want to remind everyone that beginning tomorrow, February 1st through 28th, 3 p.m. every day, One Breath Chicago will be broadcasting on our One Breath Chicago sites, and also on Light of Loving Kindness sites as well. We will have a breath practice 3 o'clock every day. Tell everybody you know, join us. Let's breathe together as a community. Let's put something different out there into the consciousness than what is out there already. And we can do that for Chicago. Beginning March 1st through March 31st, we are doing One Breath everywhere. We need your help. If you are a practitioner, if you're a person that practices breath work, mindful breathing, we are collecting videos right now. We have One Breath Gary, One Breath Los Angeles, One Breath San Francisco. So for the month of March, we will be featuring different people in different cities sharing their One Breath process. So that's 2 full months you get absolutely free with different practitioners to practice your breath work. What else are you waiting for? So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to the panel. If you want to read more about the science of healing, on our website, www.lightoflovingkindness.org, we have a tab that says the science of healing, and you can read about how all of these different modalities, including breath work, can help you to live a more mindful life. And if you can, as I said before, donate, help us to continue to provide these resources for free. Thank you so much. Blessings to everyone, and have a wonderful day. Bye.
All right,
We're done. Okay, everybody's gone.
Hi,
Hi, Heather. It's so funny. The men stayed on and they were just like, "Ooh, they talked," and the women just like, bye.
Right? Yeah.
Heather, was that good or was that good?
It was very good.
Ooh, that was yummy.
They've all been very, very good.
I know. So, okay. I love you. How you doing?
Love you too. Good to see
Seems
you.
like I'm always saying that, huh? Yeah, you doing good?
Yes. Let me just log off of the streaming here.
Oh yeah, log me off. Okay, I love you. I'm gonna go eat some food. I'm hungry.
Okay.
I love you so much.
Enjoy your
I'll talk to you later.
afternoon.
Woo!
All
Okay,
right.
bye, honey.
See ya.